We're in the heart and soul of Ipswich, and we love to talk to this man. Everybody's talking about historyouthere.com. Check it out on Facebook and the website. This bloke tells us some great stories. We're going to try to get him some mainstream media because he's actually got somebody who's been dead for probably 100 years nearly, and they're going to be put on the Roll of Honour from Ipswich.
It's a big thing.
That is a flaming big thing. You imagine what the bloke would think himself, but he's been dead for a long time, probably doesn't have an opinion. Let's talk to Harold together.
Don't
Peacock.
make me do that again.
The Peacock Man from historyouthere.com. We're going to talk about I think a very unusual chemist, William Lyle, 19th century, mysterious, and he worked just up the road. Harold, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Danny, and I think I heard you two guys and a whole crowd from around Australia joining in.
Well, we should call this the Crow segment.
Or the Graham Candy segment.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, well, listen, mate, this is a great yarn. So this bloke his shop was just up the road from where West Bremer Radio is.
Yeah, that's right, in the 19th century. Now, some people, Danny, just attract disaster and mystery. I'm not saying that to you, but the Ipswich druggist, William Lyle from South St. England, is an unbelievable example. Yeah. He first set up shop up north in Bowen. In 1880, he married Eliza Richmond, who was the niece of a wealthy pioneer down here in Brisbane. In 1882, his son William died aged 4 months. In 1883, his son Albert died.
Now, your phone's gone a bit funny. Step to the left.
Okay, I've just stepped to the left.
That's better. That's 1883.
Yeah, 1883, his son, another son died. In 1884, his chemist shop in Bowen was totally wrecked by a cyclone. And 1 month later, his daughter Maud died, aged 5 months. In 1885, his wife Eliza died, but William inherited her Bowen property. In 1886, Lyle made a trip to Sydney aboard this ship, Orizaba. At 486 feet, she later became one of the largest ships ever to sink in Australian waters. Then he came to Ipswich. In 1887, he married Elizabeth Knowles, who was the daughter of the chief fruit inspector at the Queensland Department of Agriculture. Right. And in 1888, Elizabeth died in Ipswich. A month later, their only child, Lizzie, died less than 2 months old in Ipswich.
He's mysterious, this bloke, and his first wife, apparently had very nice Bowen mangoes. Keep going.
Yeah, that's right. And in 1890, having lost 4 children, 2 wives, and 1 shop in just 10 years, Lyle decided to throw in the towel and return to England. But it doesn't end there.
Right.
He booked a travel from Sydney to London aboard the ship Aruba. Now, that was the same ship that in the First World War was scuttled into the breakwater at Lemnos Island during the Gallipoli campaign. But anyway, he arrived in Sydney on the 29th of August, 1890, and began working as a labourer aboard the coal ship Coromandel that was moored at Circular Quay. Now, this was a very strange thing to do, Danny, for a man of independent means.
Yes.
And the next morning, the ship's officers found Lyle's portmanteau, which is one of those large leather travelling bags that open circle part.
Yes.
They found that, and other things like a gold watch, a bank draft for £290, and a bank passport showing that he had £1,400. All of this Lyle had left in the ladies' bathroom.
Right.
But Lyle was never seen again. He simply disappeared. Now, when Lyle went to Sydney in 1890, a national maritime strike was in full swing. Right. The battle was particularly bitter in Victoria and New South Wales, where armed troops were used to support the police for the first time. It was known that Lyle's sympathies were with the steamship owners. Wow. And when he got to Sydney, he worked for free on the Coromandel. It was 8 years later, in 1898, when his sister applied to have him declared dead, that a judge said that he'd probably been knocked on the head and the body disposed of by one of the unionists. But no one really knows. And interestingly, the lawyer representing Lyle's sister was Walter Frederick Wilson. He himself had recently bought a house that was owned by a man who had also mysteriously disappeared. So Lyle just attracted this stuff. Now, his chemist shop in Ipswich kept trading under his name for quite a while, even though he didn't exist, and ended up being a chemist for over 70 years because it was run by the Ipswich mayor, James Minnis, until the mid-1950s. And Danny, the shop was at 137 Brisbane Street, opposite the old post office there. Yeah. So there's loads of history out there, and Lyle's shop was just 3 minutes walk from where you are right now in the studios of West Bremer Radio.
Mate, get the Queensland Police to get this bloke on some of these cold cases. Mate, that's just a great yarn. Did Lyle never be found? His
body was never found, but his sister got all the money.
Was she? You think he was bumped off?
Well, it certainly looks that way because he did work on a ship that was there was a strike happening and there was some pretty rough stuff happening. So it looks like he was a victim of that 80-90 maritime strike, which is actually a pretty well-known strike. Because 1891, the very next year, was a shearer strike. So there was strikes happening everywhere and there was a lot of violence, kind of stuff going on.
But came out of some great privileges for workers, all that violence. But
Absolutely,
can I ask you this? Why was his gear found in the ladies' toilets?
That there was so much speculation, including around why was it in the ladies' toilet when it could have been anywhere else.
Yeah, well, he probably got some of those Bowen mangoes and stuck them down the bra and dressed up as a Sheila.
Anyway, moving on from that, I don't know.
You didn't know where to step then, under the tower. All right, well, where can we find this story?
Yep, it'll be there tomorrow morning. Now, Danny, I post the story the next morning because you know why?
Why?
It means people can wake up with Dr. Dan 2 mornings in a row.
You are funny, man.
That's historyoutThere.com.
Oh, I love his sarcasm too.
Love it.
It's 8:20. That is one of the best segments on Brisbane radio, in my opinion.
Or Ipswich radio.
Ipswich,
even.
there's not much
about it,
opposition.
mate.
There's
Come
not
on.
much competition.
They're terrible.
8:21. Good on you, Harold. HistoryOutThere.com. Let's hear it for the Harold for the Peacock. Thanks a lot, Graham Kennedy.